It's another Wednesday night. It is called Wellness Wednesday. I am well. Pete Bombachi from the GenWell Project. How well are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Carrie. I just got out of a swimming pool with my son about 15, 20 minutes ago, thus the bad hair and everything. But, there's nothing about Wednesday nights that excites me as much as spending time connecting with you and the other great guests that we have on this show. So thank you.
Well. How many times can we say well today? I'll tell you what, I am really excited, but I've probably slept in a tent more times than I've slept in my entire life on the trip. And so I thought it was really cool to get Jill Wheatley back on just to give us a little update. Now, I'm blessed that Robert Frid connected me to her. And, we've said this before, Robert Velfer, who was my line mate, who unfortunately broke his neck, and we lost him a few years ago, was an inspiration to me. I thought the world of this kid. And Jill is just as amazing, or Robert, sorry, buddy, probably more amazing because Robert never climbed a mountain. And I just find it fascinating that we can talk to somebody that's actually done what all of us, I would have loved. I had a chance to go play at the, I can't remember the exact mountain, but I had an opportunity to actually go and play on Mount Everest, but it would have been the base. It wouldn't have been all the way up. And I turned it down because I had asthma. This is about 12, 14 years ago. And a bunch of guys did it. And I would have loved to have done that. And it's on my bucket list. So I've already made a deal with Jill. As soon as we get out of this pandemic, Pete, you don't know you're already on the expedition. We're going to climb the Sleeping Giant in Thunder Bay. That's all we can climb. We can't do the mountains behind us. There she is. Look at her.
That is amazing. I love that. And you know what we all need, Carrie, is, and we've talked about human connection. Obviously, this is what the show was inspired by. But sometimes we need a buddy who kind of kicks us in the butt and says, hey, we're going to go do this. And Jill, not only is she inspiring other people, but your encouragement, even as a friend and a buddy to other people, like let's get 20 people to do it, because that's how we inspire other people to actually go out and achieve amazing things.
You know what we need to do first, though, Pete, you and I?
Train?
Pandemic's it's not been very good to my belly. So you and I will have to go to that bunny hill. You know the bunny hill that has that tow rope? See, kids, right? That's how we'll get started. Look at this. This is an inspiration, too. Just think about this. Let's have a fun show because we've got a fun guest. Robert Wine, who we love dearly. And I know we're gonna do the Kumbaya, pardon the pun for the Kathmandu, but we're gonna do the Kumbaya one day. I've been waiting all day to hear what she will share this evening. Unbelievable. All right, without further ado, before we actually go to meet her in Kathmandu, where I think it's, 5:45 a.m., I'm just getting to bed. When I lived in Europe, that's when we actually left the bar. Watch this. Pete Bombachi.
"3 days to live, oxygen masks, medication lines, and feeding tubes. Lifelines to see another day. 2014 began an expedition of survival. A line drive, a hard ball to the head, began a climb testing personal strength and human potential. A medical team, hundreds of hands from 7 hospitals across 3 countries, guided me towards a peak that felt impossible to climb. Traumatic brain injury. They got me to the summit, yet my work was just beginning. The TBI triggered an avalanche. 70% vision loss, a life-threatening eating disorder, cognitive change, and desperation. An autonomous athlete in the shadows of the Bavarian Alps, to a hospital room gazing stoically towards the Colorado Rockies. My expedition of survival has led from depths of darkness to the highest of the Himalayas. 26 months in a relentless storm, the only sign I could see guided me towards mountains. Time to challenge the mountains of my mind. Running, climbing, and skiing my way around some of the world's most majestic massives, I embrace the eyesight I have and every second of the life I nearly lost. From Andorra to Argentina, New Zealand to Nepal, from Peru to Patagonia and the Pyrenees, Italy, Iceland, and India, from the Andes to the Annapurnas, from tales of getting lost to finding myself, running ridges and climbing up craters and through crevasses in lands of fire and ice. Sharing the lead role with Mother Nature, I have adventured with golden humans, shared trails, meditation mats, and fireside stoke with legends among surreal scenes of scree, storms, and summits in this, my story of serendipity. Mountains have housed a transformation from losing sight to gaining vision. Breaking through the shackles of stigma that traumatic brain injury and vision loss hold, I adventure onward, shining light on the power of perspective and possibility.
How great is that? That's amazing. But you know what? Jill Wheatley is more than that. She's a lady that obviously had trials and tribulations in her life, and she's actually come through. She says, lost sight yet gained vision. What an incredible statement. And ladies and gentlemen, we are so honored to have her tonight, all the way, well, her morning, our tonight. I wonder if she had bacon and eggs this morning. Let's ask her. Good morning.
Eggs this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Carrie? Great
I am
to
fantastic. Is there any way you could lend Pete your hat?
If he comes and gets it, it's all his. I've got a few to spare.
That's awesome.
Listen, you've heard us talking, you were in the green room, that we are getting, first we're going to get in shape and we're going to go to the Bunny Hill and we're going to start it. And we've joked around. I have told people you're from Thunder Bay, and when you do come back to Canada, or maybe I'll have to fly to Kathmandu. And I hope there is one of those bunny hills. I am going to climb a mountain with you. It may not be the largest mountain, but you've inspired me to at least, we may need a few puffers, but now I've got Pete on. We're going to get a team of people. And even if it's in Toronto, is there a mountain? We'll go to Collingwood and we'll climb a mountain together, if nothing else. Pete, are you in?
Well, I don't know if they call those hills in Collingwood mountains. I think most skiers don't. But, we'll find a way to do something.
The hills are alive. Listen, I want to read this.
No singing, Carrie. No singing.
No, I'm good. Listen, I want to read this to get, we're going to have some fun. Jill's always got a smile on her face. Pete, you're always the jokester, and we can get serious. And I love that part about this show, that we can actually laugh, cry, and then understand that those emotions are very important for all of us, whether you're man, woman, or child. And let me read this. When an injury, illness, or sudden life change derails us, our natural response is to curl up and retreat from the world. But it's when we harness the adversity and step into the storm that it becomes possible to recover and even come out stronger. Jill Wheatley. Tell us a little bit about Jill Wheatley.
You mean how I'm doing now?
Obviously, there's some people. Just give us a little bit of a 101 on Gene, because there will be people that have not seen the story, but just give us a little bit how we are here today talking. We're obviously wanting to get the update of what's going on, obviously with isolation, with Kathmandu going under, again, tougher restrictions, you flying around on these small little pedal jumpers to go from one mountain to another. So we'll leave that. Just give us, obviously a Coles Note version of you being in Germany, softball, and the rest.
A softball that didn't hit so softly. So I was teaching high school physical and health education just outside of Munich. And serendipity started one early September morning with a 10th grade class where we were working on skills connecting objects. And that particular morning was baseball bats and baseballs. And as no one could have ever predicted, everyone was doing what they were supposed to do, which is good. But however, one of my students accidentally connected bat and ball in a direction that was not intentional. And of all of the places in the world, it actually connected right here, the side of my head on the right hand side. So I was taken to hospital. I was diagnosed with a black eye. I was sent back to the very stereotypical Bavarian farm where I lived, above a barn, all by myself. My friends brought me with this black eye that I felt there was something more, but I'm just a sporty teacher. And who am I to question the medical professionals from the ER, from the emergency room? So I believed that, and I went on, in my mind, just stay strong, be tough. It's just a black eye. You can still go to the race this weekend. So I was planning to compete in the World Long Distance Mountain Duathlon Championships. So that's a combination of mountain running and cycling. And I thought, it's just a black eye, so of course I can still compete. However, about 36 hours, about a day and a half later, my friend flew in to visit. He was going to take me to this race, and instead he took me back to that ER. So that time alone, sort of in and out of consciousness, trying to soothe the pain in any way possible, and that included like frozen berries just to use as ice because I didn't have any of that. Took me to that hospital where I was reassessed and quickly put in an ambulance and taken to a neurotrauma hospital. So that began my journey of 7 hospitals in 3 countries over 26 months. So that black eye was in fact a little bit more than just that. It was a black eye, but it was also traumatic skull fractures and a bleeding and swelling brain. So with traumatic brain injury, there is basically launched an avalanche that triggered so much more than a black eye. So with respect to the brain injury, that was the focus, getting that bleeding under control, and then all that came in the wake included so the physical, the emotional, cognitive change, PTSD that comes with that, but also the vision never returned. So I have actually 30% vision now that I now celebrate that I do still have. It also triggered a life-threatening eating disorder. So they gave me 3 days to live because I was so ill and malnourished. My brain wasn't functioning due to the injury as well as it wasn't being nourished. So I went from an extremely fit, autonomous athlete, teacher, coach to someone who couldn't find the light of day. Literally, figuratively, things got really dark. The focus was on the brain. And then thinking at the time that the vision would come back once the bleeding cleared in my brain. However, those goalposts kept getting pushed. And so with the pushed goalpost, my hope dwindled. It just went further and further, like in 2 weeks, once the blood clears, your eye will open again. Or, and then it was like 2 months. And then at 6 months, when the diagnosis with respect to my vision was clear, the diagnosis was clear that my vision was not clear. So it was then that I was told, no, the vision wouldn't come back. And so even at that, mentally, I plummeted even further. And just feeling that, there was grief, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. It was just anger. Like there was no acceptance whatsoever. It was just going from a normal existence to this horrific news that I was disbelieving. And so denial and anger and aggression. And it just got dark and dark and dark till I literally, I just couldn't believe that life was worth living. So from there, now I speak to you, climbing completely different mountains once I was able to get the support and the medical expertise that took 26 months. But that medical expertise and the helpful, caring hands of of hundreds of hands that never gave up on me. I was able to climb that mountain of traumatic brain injury and vision loss and eating disorders, everything that came with that. And then now I continue to climb that mountain and all that came in that avalanche. But now I'm literally climbing mountains, and I speak to you from here in Kathmandu at the foothills of the Himalayas. In brief.
Wow. Jill, that is incredible. And I will tell you, I host a bi-monthly gathering of traumatic brain injury people. This is so odd because a good friend of mine had a traumatic brain injury in a car accident and has come from 6 months in a coma and back. And I would love to one day get you onto that show and connect you with other traumatic brain injury survivors, because I think your story is so inspirational. As I listen to you, Jill, I think the question, and I'm sure it's a question you get all the time. So obviously, traumatic, I don't even know if that's a word worthy of what you have been through. What was the point? What was the point where Jill said, all right, I'm done with this. It is time to move forward. And I love that you talk about the hundreds of hands, the hundreds of people in many different facets, whether it's physical health, whether it's mental health, whether it's social health. What was the point where you said, enough is enough? I'm Jill Wheatley, and I don't let this stop me.
It is a question I do get often. It's one that I still ponder often, but I do think I have actually goosebumps thinking about it, because it's like the day in September where I literally feel I can see the whole event happening. It's looking down like a Bavarian eagle looking down at the situation. I can see in this particular hospital room me looking down at me on my hospital bed and Dr. Smith here. And I won't go into all the details about what he was telling me at that time, but I was just so fed up of being in the care of these, at the time, didn't feel like care to me. I just wanted to be alone. I was so exhausted of the false promises and just being, the loss of autonomy. And what he told me, assured me that I wasn't getting out of hospital anytime soon. And if I didn't start doing what they were telling me I needed to do, because I couldn't see any light in it, but I could see with the vision that I have out that hospital room window, I can see the Colorado Rockies. And so, he's like, I'm sort of arguing when he's saying I need to stay. And I'm like, I used some words that I will not repeat. But, just let me out. And I, shouting and throwing things. I had a ruler for some reason and I broke it. I have my computer charger and I threw it. Like, it was so wrong. But I could see the Colorado Rockies and I'm like, just let me out of here and I will figure it out. Like, obviously I was not well, both physically and mentally. But it was then, it's like, if I'm not putting those snacks and that food, that nutrition that they're trying to give me so that I can get, stable to be walking properly, never mind climbing. But, in my mind, I thought, just let me be in those mountains and I'll figure it out. However, it took those hundreds of hands and those hearts that put up with it for so long to get me to that point. But I think there was just something that sort of shifted me at that point where, he said, you're going to be here. If this continues, you're not going to be on your own. And so it was like, at this, I got to do it. And, take the medication, stop pulling out your tubes. And then that just started. Okay, I'm going to get out of Colorado. I'm going to get out of this hospital and then eventually out of Colorado. But only like months, in fact, now years later, do I look back and think maybe that, there was something there that now I find myself here in the Himalayas. I've traveled in 13 different major massives around the world and got back to those Colorado Rockies and back to that hospital to thank that medical team and, reconnect and say thank you, because without them, I wouldn't be here. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have survived. I had given up. I could not see that life was worth living. But at that point where it was like, it's sort of like, if you don't do this, you're not going to make it. And so I think that was a significant turning point, but there's been lots of progress since then, because I still felt very lost once I left hospital, adjusting to vision loss, adjusting to just all of the changes that come with visual impairment, and the way my body had changed, going from so strong and fit to, so frail that I was, sort of on death's doorstep. And then just with respect to my body, it needed to be nourished, it needed to be stabilized. And so it went through so much. So there was just a lot of adjustment that still I struggle with, just acceptance of it all. But so I think that was a significant turning point, but there's been lots with respect to acceptance and just embracing what is and relinquishing control since then.
Can I Carrie, can I just ask just a follow-up?
Of course. That's why we're here.
It's funny, Jill, as I listen to you, and you made the comment that the doctors are like, hey, you actually made the comment, and you said, yeah, obviously I wasn't mentally and physically in a good place. Mm-hmm. And I might actually argue with you, not that I'm trying to be argumentative, and you lived your experience. Mm-hmm. But I think what you were up against when the doctors were kind of saying, like, Jill, just accept it, that you're going to be this way, is because normal people, and I hate to say normal, but the average person, not normal, let's not say normal, the average person actually probably does succumb, does accept it as, I will never do this again. And I actually, I'm inspired, and you had goosebumps, I've got goosebumps. What I'm inspired by is that you didn't accept it. That same fight that you had before the accident is the same fight that you brought to that bedside. And when the doctor said, hey, Jill, you just need to come to grips with the fact that you're never going to do this stuff again. And you were breaking rulers and throwing laptops and whatever you could grab your hands on, because it was like, hey, I'm telling you, that's not the life I'm going to lead. And not that, actually, a positive attitude can have such a dramatic impact on the outcome. But I think, not most people aren't ready to step up and live that fight. And so I just think it's so powerful to see what your mindset was capable of doing and where it got you to today. So I'm inspired. I think your story is incredible. And thank you for sharing that journey, because obviously that was a long journey since 2014. Here we are, 2021, and you're at Kathmandu.
Kathmandu.
And are we allowed? Hey, I think we need to give permission to drop the F-bomb here on a couple of occasions. Like, how effing amazing is this, Joe?
Okay, you can say frickin'. Hey, listen, there's a lot of people on the right-hand side I want to just say hello to. Obviously, they love listening to you. There's a couple of new people that have joined in. I've got a couple of texts that people are just saying, wow. But Al Kerr, Johnny Cavers, we've had him on the show many times. He watches every time Jill Wheatley is on. He's got to be on. Steve Meldrum, I know this is a relation, saying you are an inspiration and a complete rock star, Jilly. Now we can call her Jilly. Our very good friend who obviously had connected us, Robert Frid, also he's personally dealing with some challenges with his heart and obviously through his concussions and the battles he did. Oh my God, I found oh my God, I found two of my besties. So I think that's you, Pete, and of course, Jill. You are a warrior, Jill Comrie. Thanks for sharing your own journey here, which is absolutely amazing. And finally, with him, thanks, Jill Wheatley, for sharing your journey and assisting others, including myself, battling TBI, to keep pushing forward always. You're incredible, dear. I think what's really important is that, of course, Pete, you've brought to our attention that you've had a friend that has gone through it. We have to realize that, obviously, I've been very close to the ground. When we hear the word concussions, I have not been where Jill has been, but I have suffered the darkness and that tunnel without seeing the light. And I had to pull myself off the mat, not in the way that Jill has done, but I do realize that it was the only way out. And there were people saying, this is it. This is as good as you're going to get. And unless you do what Jill did, and a lot of us have done, say, no, 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 there's more to me than this. And I think you say it best, Jill, this will not define me. What will define me is this. That's Jill Wheatley climbing a mountain. Now, don't move, because I want to show a couple more. I need you to grasp the reality of this.
Mm-hmm.
This is Jill. No, this is Jill. She's sleeping in a tent. You know, the last time I slept in a tent, I was a Boy Scout. This is Jill. She's hanging from the side of a mountain.
It's just a
Where's your buddy? You're going to talk to us about that in 1 second. And here you are on top of the mountain. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget, that's with 30% vision. So when you wake up in the morning and you got a sore back, stop belly aching. Rub it down, put some heat on, don't pop a pill. I usually just use an Advil, but move, get up. You can do it. And Jill, I really, really appreciate you allowing us to walk with you through this journey and telling us about that. So now I think it's really important that we move to what both Pete and I am professing. Obviously, we're all living through this pandemic together. You in a far different circumstance than us. I can't even spell Kathmandu, and I don't really know where Nepal is. Think about this for a second, that you're out there on your own. And if you could just walk us most epic accomplishments. So walk us through this incredible, for anybody that wants to email me or text me, I will send this directly to you, or go please to Jill's website, mountainsofmymind.com. You'll see a bunch of videos, but you'll see some of the incredible accomplishments. And you didn't do this alone. I would like you to acknowledge your guide.
Oh, yeah. So that climb there, that's my friend Vinay who guided me. That is Amadablam, which in the previous photo, so that's the highest peak I've done. It's just below 7,000 meters. But it is known to be one of the most technical climbs, renowned actually sort of in the world. So with my vision, it's something I obviously couldn't do alone. And just Vinay understanding my vision and what I'm capable of, having him guide me is, there has to be a relationship of trust. And I was able to, I've been able to being here in Nepal, been able to spend enough time with him that he knows what my strengths and areas where I might need extra support and when to leave me alone. So for something technical like that, I'm super thankful for him. The last photo that you just shared, where the sun side with my skis, the one before that with my skis, that's the one I just did. So that was about 3 months ago now. That's called Mira Peak. And that one I did solo. I did by myself. And the reason I bring that one up is because that's sort of the last one. And literally as I came down from that one, lockdown was reinstated. So the previous one with Vinay, we had just got out of 8 months of lockdown, and we were like kids on the last day of school, coming out of lockdown, out of such darkness. Like we talked in previous podcasts or previous interviews about the highs and lows of the first lockdown. And the doors got open just in time to go to climb Amadablam. Like this was like dreamy. Nobody else, foreigners weren't coming in because of the pandemic, but we got a permit, we were able to climb. And so basically we had the Himalayas to ourselves, got to do the climb, and that had its own highs and lows with so much stoke, so much excitement, so much surreal. But then that surreal kind of took from the good surreal to losing my dad on that climb, which was sort of a book in itself. But then coming back and still the pandemic, the COVID situation didn't really get real here in Nepal until recently, until that previous photo where I went out on Mira Peak, sort of on a solo mission, where, being alone and being in the mountains and challenging myself and training for my upcoming expedition, it was really powerful, a new area. But then lockdown happened again. So literally I'm up there, I summited, came down, had been offline for almost 2 weeks, and got the news that, there's no more flights out. I'm in Khumbu. So that area, the mountains you can see in the background, Everest is actually in there. But I'm in this Khumbu region where I think, okay, if it's going to be locked down, I'm locked up here. All is good as can be. However, unfortunately, COVID got really rampant. It got brought into Khumbu, into the Everest region, because it's peak climbing season. And with, I'm not pointing fingers at all, the expedition season was allowed to happen, which for me was great. And for my friends here who are so dependent on tourism, I'm just super happy that they can finally get some work. They can be back in the mountains. We can sort of all be back doing to what we love. However, COVID made its way up to Everest Base Camp and then spread throughout the region, which included the places where I was. So I stayed up there. Carrie, I was sort of offline for a couple of months. Well,
I was trying to call her, Pete. It's not like when I call you, and it just goes in and out. You can't catch her. There's no satellite dish.
Yeah, so in and out of connection, and when I decided, I'm up here, so I keep moving, but then it didn't get safe to move anymore. So I thankfully, the tea houses, the accommodations up there, we're all closing because of, for safety. And I have some beautiful friends who opened the door, welcomed me into their home. So, finding gems or finding light in darkness, I had the opportunity to stay with, in a traditional Sherpa family, which otherwise never would have happened. So I try to find the good. And just being able to go out on trails and still have some movement, have some freedom. Spring didn't look like I anticipated, but I've learned, life's taught me that life doesn't always go the way we anticipate, and even my blueprints need to remain flexible, and that eraser needs to stay readily available. So yeah, I stayed up there, but then even where I was staying, the risk was really high. Unfortunately, the village, there was an outbreak. And so it was a really tough decision, because, there's somewhat of a freedom that I can go out on trails and I'm by myself. But, and then there's the history, first lockdown when I was in the mountains and we got forced back to Kathmandu, that really triggered the experience of being locked in a hospital room, of having no control. And that is something that I really struggle with. And so this time, COVID got real, and it got really personal with friends being infected, friends being hospitalized, friends losing family members. And that triggering of control. I have no control over the situation. I don't know about staying in the mountains. I can't get back. There's no flights. And just struggling with control, and then connection. I really learned, or continue to learn, just that difference with control and being where I am, about the difference between loneliness and being alone. Aloneness, I feel, can be really fulfilling for me. If I'm doing things right, if I'm sticking to my meditation and really connecting with myself, then I'm okay with being alone. But, I find meditation really helps me connect deeper with myself. But being in the mountains for so long and alone, essentially, I was finding a little bit of loneliness in that I was missing connection. And I know that, it was a trigger for me. It was craving connection. And whenever there's a craving, it means, to me, I feel, a craving means there's something missing. So I was missing the connection. And I think part of that was, I'm used to being able to, have a mobile and be able to connect with Carrie or family or friends, even a few hills away, or, back in Kathmandu, but, I had limited connection, and I couldn't, I have my journal, my paper and pencil, but I was finding that it just was feeling different, that, I felt I wanted to talk to someone, not just superficial, but really connecting, about what is right to do. And I know there's no right or wrong, but, trying to get a flight out, getting on a cargo plane to get back to Kathmandu, trying to arrange that because of the situation out there. I just felt, I felt that this time being locked in the mountains, there was so many good things about it, but then it became somewhat clear with, connecting with the right people and staying mindful, staying present, but thinking about, okay, now it's just 6 weeks away before my big expedition. If worst case scenario, I'm in Kathmandu for 6 weeks, I can train. My computer I didn't have for 3 months, and I'm just used to being able to do my writing, reflecting, and it's much easier for me to do my writing on a computer than with my vision and my phone. I'm not so efficient. So I'm not sure what I started talking about, but I'm sort of
No, but can I jump in?
I do the same thing all the time, Jill. That's pretty normal for me.
It was very meaningful of what you just brought us through, the journey that you brought through. And what's really incredible is that Pete is Mr. Connection. So I know that Pete wants to take the General Project is all about connecting. And I think what you've just explained to us is, and I'm not one of those people that can sit in a room by myself, because I'm never really by myself, because my second personality starts chatting with me and I have no idea what's going on. But I'm not good with that. I need to be around people, whether that's an illness or something wrong with me, I don't know. But I love to hang with people. And Pete is Mr. Connection. So what you've just heard from Jill, Pete, how does that play into the situation we're all in right now? Because even though, Jill, you're in Kathmandu, stuck in this room, I'm stuck, or I was stuck in Toronto in my house for a few months, and I couldn't go out. They're very similar, yet you found a way of being able to deal with that. A lot of people don't. Pete, I'd love to hear your perspective on what Jill just walked us through.
Yeah, honestly, Jill, I'm blown away. And I have I want to make a couple comments, and then I have a question for you. So I love your take on loneliness and alone, because being alone for many people can be a positive experience, because, as you said, your mindfulness, you have some mindfulness practices, meditation, different things. But you had a craving, and that's the body's and the mind's catalyst to make us seek things. If we're hungry, our stomach grumbles. If we're alone and we want connection, it makes us feel lonely. And that's, short-term loneliness is actually a positive thing, because it helps us seek those connections that we need. But I have a really, it's an interesting question. Is this who Jill was before you had the accident? Did you have this? Because when I listen to you, Jill, right now, and the Genwell Project, for 5 years, I've been trying to educate Canadians from coast to coast about the importance of social connection to their health, because now the research shows it's more important than physical activity and eating well, but most of us have never been educated on it. And we need to educate people right now, because as we come out of 16 months of lockdown, the first thing we all need to start doing is actually connecting with one another. But this awareness, this consciousness, this understanding of what the difference between a loneliness and alone is, and being present and mindful, was that part of who you were, or was that part of the journey? Is that part of who you became as you understood, hey, there are things I'm going to have to cope with as I go through this, and this is what I need to do to manage that? I'm really, really curious.
I definitely feel it's part of being part of the process. And back in the early days when doctors and therapists would say, trust the process, like, F you, like, this is bullshit. Uh, but now people
I
say,
I
like,
can't find the disclaimer, guys. I can't find send the grievances to the Genwell Project.
Oh, hey,
you
we'll
told
take
me
them.
okay. Okay, sorry.
No, all good, all good.
No, I sincerely think, I'm still learning. And Pete, I think this is part, I talk a lot about, and I write a lot about the lessons that my traumatic brain injury has taught me. And I feel that even from lockdown last year to lockdown this year, the lessons continue and provide opportunity. Like, I just feel that the exercising personal strength, like more than just the physical, but the mental, and that learning last year. Like, so last year I need products, and just like I said, about timelines and traumatic brain injury, that I need I need sort of concrete goals, pushing the goalposts, and I need things to work towards. And so last year I recognized that I need a project during lockdown. I need to have something. And so it was my website. Last year I spent a lot of time sort of revamping my website. It gave me something, every day I need routine, as much routine as possible. And, having that and setting, boxes to tick, which is a whole nother subject. But this year, okay, I'm in the mountains. So as much as I like to, I can't spend 12 hours every day. When I'm based in a village, I can't spend 12 hours every day on the trail. I need to be smart. I need to listen to my body, train properly. And so with much encouragement and a shift in perspective that continues, I've heard this for a long time, but just like what the doctors were telling me for a long time, sometimes acceptance takes time. And so with this strong encouragement to be more interactive on with followers and social media, which has been a real struggle for me, but part of the lessons and learning that something about the darkness that was happening in Khumbu, or in Nepal in general, something about the darkness and where I was and what tools I had in my toolbox, something sparked that now's the time to take that leap, to take that step, to climb that mountain of connection. And so, what I'm getting at is interacting more personally, I guess, in social media. So I took it upon myself, with, again, hands encouraging me, and shifting my perspective to see how I can help others. And by being vulnerable and being completely authentic, putting myself out there, and just with others encouraging and saying, let us into your day. And so now inviting people into my day and being completely honest, like some days, like yesterday, I had a rough couple days and I hadn't slept well. I tried to go for a run, no energy, just, this is how it is. Not every day is going to be standing on top of those mountains in clear blue sky and sunshine. Right. Some days you have to work for the inner sunshine, but I recognize that. And, when the accident first happened, I couldn't see that darkness would change or that the sun is going to rise tomorrow, but now I can. And so just being more interactive, like these I do like a 15-30 second video, and just the connection, like love them. The Pete, like you said, this connection, I try to make it personal, like not social media can be very superficial, but in my, when I post something, I really, with my whole heart, hope that people read the caption. I'm making a connection. When I'm doing a video, letting people in, ask questions, and and just keep things real, because I feel that people connect to that, with my vision. I fell on the trail and, talk about it, but I'm getting back up. So, sorry, just the interaction and being vulnerable, the feedback that I'm getting is like, Jill, why didn't you listen sooner? Well,
Jill, I looked at it
time.
I saw that today, and it said, "Ask me a question." What platform was that? Was that Instagram?
I put it on Instagram, and then it directly goes to Facebook. I'm not so, and
It's really cool, Pete. You got to take a peek at it. I was really, I didn't know how to do it, but she said, "Ask me a question," and then it's got this button, "Ask me a question," and of course, I must have pressed the wrong button because I didn't ask you a question. Hey, listen, Brady's joined in. Bean, love you. So proud. One of the things I'd like to go through too is, Rob's come up, and I know it's John Cavers has said it. Sam Trapolino, when we did the Australia show, he wasn't able to make it. Jill, he's apologizing. He says, "Very sorry I didn't make it. Following your journey. You're so inspirational." This is really great to have these type of comments. Your mental strength is beyond your years, Jill. You're right. We all have to keep incorporating routine and schedule. It's key to battling TBI. I think that is not only for TBI. What I'm learning through this 15 months, and I'm not a routine guy. I was a routine guy when I played hockey. I knew what time breakfast was. I knew what time the bus would go. I knew what time the game was. I knew how long the periods were. And I knew that routine. I knew I played Friday nights, Saturday nights, sometimes Sunday afternoons. I practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Everything was spoon-fed. I didn't have to sharpen my skates. I got my stick. So routine was my life while I was a pro. Once I got out of pro, I got away from that. I became spontaneous. I didn't want that routine. But now that I've been involved in this 15 months of lockup and isolation, I'm still with people, but you're just not free. And I think it is important that, and Pete, comment on this, please. I think routine becomes ultra important now, that you're going to have to get a routine, because you know what? We're going to have to go out that door soon. And we're going to have to be able to open up like Jill has spoken about. And I don't think it's going to be as easy for all of us than just knocking on somebody's door. "Hey, it's over. Hi, Pete."
Yeah, Carrie, it's I just was actually with our head of research for Genwell in the last couple of days, and he talked about the stats and the research that show when you go through long periods of not doing something, it creates greater anxiety on the other side of it. So there will be people who will struggle without getting out there and building those connections. But Jill, as I listen to you and, creating your purpose and seeing social media as no longer just a thing to do, but then finding a purpose and a meaning to it, which is helping other people. And I think a lot of people over the last 16 months have really, first off, we've recognized the power of human connection and, how much we actually need each other. But I think a lot of people who had jobs, who went to work every day. And the research, we just came back with a Canadian national survey of social connection. And one of the things it shows that over 65% of the connections we had every day were not organized. So much of what made us feel connected and a sense of belonging in a community were the people that we saw when we were out there just doing what we did, whether it was at Starbucks, on the street, walking down your community. Carrie, you talk about talking to people at the mailbox, and you're on your street all the time. And that's what I think we're waking up to, is the recognition of how important all those connections are, not just the deep, meaningful connections with our loved ones, but the ability just to say hello. One of the stats that came out, which I think is just truly empowering for all of us, those who speak to strangers at least one time a week are 3 times as likely to be happy. We've been told our whole lives not to talk to strangers. I'm telling you right now, start talking to strangers, because that's actually part of making us all happier. But
Pete, that was not accept candy.
Yeah. Hey, there's obviously going to be scenarios where we don't want to do that. But hey, Jill, I got a question.
Sure.
Because I've been championing the human connection movement, and Carrie's obviously with the Connected platform been focused on trying to connect people and get them to understand this. And I'll tell you, for 5 years, up until the global pandemic, most people looked at me and said, Pete, what are you talking about? I see people, I'm socially connected, I get it. Everything that you understand now, I would argue that most people don't understand the aspects of being mindful, being present. There's a percentage. Let's say, I don't know, let's give 10 to 20%. Let's give the benefit of the doubt. 10 to 20% of people who understand those important aspects of life is finding that comfort within so that you can actually go and be and give more to other people, because that's where the purpose and the meaning comes in. Yeah. What's your advice to those who haven't been through a traumatic brain injury or haven't been through a crisis, a big crisis in their lives? Mm-hmm. How do they awaken to all the things, like all the beauty that you share, all the enlightenment that you share, all the inspiration that you share? How do we get there without having to go through the crisis?
I wish I had a concrete, absolute answer. That's a really good question. I think for me, I don't like the word advice, but just in my experience, if someone hasn't been through something like this, I think mindfulness for me is being, like you said, in the moment and letting, and it comes back to control, like the future and what's happened before, it doesn't actually exist. What exists is this moment right now. That's all we really know. We can't say what's going to happen this afternoon or in 2 years and 10 years. And so as much as just embracing every moment, I don't think I can really give you a concrete answer, Pete. But in my experience, just staying connected to myself, and what I referred to earlier, just about meditation, and what I feel is that I can really connect deeper to myself with meditation and with mindfulness. But if someone hasn't learned life's lesson through adversity, such as my traumatic brain injury, I think I would just encourage, to stay present and to focus on what really matters. That part of the lessons of my TBI is, that question, like, is this really important? When I think of society and life is very different here in Nepal, in the third world, where I hear people talking about their work and their stress of work and go and bigger house and next car and just coming back to, is that what's really important? And so I think, again, just the lessons that I've learned about importance, about staying connected to myself, and how meditation and mindfulness play into that it's I wouldn't use the word regret ever. It's just it's almost thanks. It's thanks, traumatic brain injury. You've taught me a lot. And
very good point.
I think
Pete she forgot to mention those higher fences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember?
Hey, I love that question, Jill, as a question we can all ask ourselves. Is this really important?
Yep. Very true.
Because if we went through our days and asked ourselves that question, I think we'd make a lot of different choices.
Yeah, and one that I continue to work on, and personal self-work is, and that social media definitely ties into this, and connection ties into this, but what are my personal values? If I'm sticking to my values, who gives what other people think? Do you know what I mean?
Carrie, did you bleep that, or was that?
I bleeped it. I bleeped it. Bleep. We got to get one of those buttons. Beep. It's got to get in the budget.
There is no budget.
I just think that we need to, a lot of people, when we talk about mental health, people, there's a very easy tendency to fall into that, oh, I'm worried about what other people think, what other people will say. But if you're sticking to your values, I feel that that should, that not, I don't for me, if I'm doing something that sticks to my values, then that's all. I can't control other people's reactions. I can't control what other people do. But if I'm sticking to my values, then that's what's important for me.
It is Wellness Wednesday.
It's not always easy. I have lots of work to do.
Yeah,
we all do.
It is Wellness Wednesday. I'm not sure what it is in Nepal. Are you on the same day? No, you're Thursday.
No, I'm Thursday.
You're Thursday. Listen, I'm going to let you, Pete, ask the final question. And then as you leave me, as you leave us, Jill, we could be here for hours. This is a film. This is a movie, for God's sakes. Brad Pitt's going to play me or Danny DeVito. I'm not sure who's going to play you, Pete. You can figure that out.
Yeah, I'll figure that one out.
Okay. Jennifer Anderson will play Jill. Now, listen, here's a really cool thing that was said by Robert, and this comes back to you, Pete. Pete, I read something where you always said, never forget that before you met them, your friends were strangers. Had you not talked to them, they still would have been strangers. So I think it's really important to take that, because we don't know that hello may be one of your best relationships as a friend. But if you never say hello, you may never get that. I'm going to let you ask your final question, Pete, or point to Jill, and then Jill, I'll wrap it up with one final thought for you.
Sure.
Yeah, I think one comment just on your last discussion there about what other people think, and I love that your comment at the end of the Jill, which is, hey, life isn't easy. And especially with social media bombarding us with human highlight reel lives that everybody lives every day, even though you are focused on what your values are and what you believe and doing what you believe, it's still difficult when we watch, the world living their lives. And I think that's the part of the education that the Genwell Project is trying to bring to people is, hey, create the understanding that we are up against the teams of behavioral scientists who are trying to get us to spend more time passively scrolling through this stuff so that we can be more aware, be more conscious. But I do love a line that I saw once that said, you'll never know how little people think of you until you realize how little they think of you. And I think that's really a great insight to say, you know what, just go live your life and do what you do, because frankly, especially in the world that we're in right now, between trying to homeschool kids, trying to do work from home, trying to live your life, find the balance, separate work from life and all that stuff, we're all so overwhelmed that most of us probably aren't thinking about what other people are doing. And so I think what you are doing right now, Jill, is something that this world needs more of. We need more inspiring people who are doing great things to share messages of hope, to share messages of inspiration, to say, hey, you too can overcome whatever the challenge. I don't care if it's a traumatic brain injury. I don't care if it's a divorce, a job loss, financial pressure, homelessness. I don't care what the situation is. The reality is, together we can overcome anything. But we need to create a society that actually cares about one another, who wants to be there for each other, who wants to share our stories and say, hey, I got a hand, I got some time, I can listen, I can, I'll invest in you, because I believe that together we can make the world a happier and healthier place. So I don't really have a question as much as I just want to say thank you for doing what you do, because your story is inspiring people. And I love the fact that you are becoming more vulnerable, offering to support people, seeing the purpose in your social media, because I think you are truly adding much needed value to the world at a time when the world needs it more than ever before.
Oh,
And that's
thank you so much, Pete.
And that's certainly coming from somebody that lives that life yourself, Pete. So I want to do a big shout out to you too, obviously the Genwell Project and all that you have done to help us understand the importance of connection. And that's why these type of conversations that we have and get the opportunity to spend some time with you, Jill, even though it's really early in the morning. And I know, we would be having bacon and eggs. I know you're probably going to eat, I don't know, bark from a tree or, some natural product to get you ready to go climb that mountain. Pete, that's what we're going to have to go through. We're going to have to get we're going to have to get her training program. Jill, you got to help us out. Give us what we got to eat in the morning. We got to lose a couple of calories. I'm not suggesting, Pete, that you're overweight. I didn't say that.
Did you just say that? This is a live broadcast, Carrie.
No,
you can't edit that out.
I can't see you, but I can just look at me and I know we're in trouble. So anyways, as we let you go, what I'd really like to know now, because I've never asked you this question, we've always talked about then and right now. And you've been so open. And as you said, Pete, vulnerable. But I want to look at Jill Wheatley in 5 years from today, if we could look into the future, because I've never asked you this. You are an incredible human being. You're stuck. You're in Kathmandu, and which is that in itself. How many people could put their hand up that have watched this show and say, I could do what Jill does? I think it'd be difficult. I need my social connection. And I know, you've gone through some times where I think we were trying to get you on one day and you were ready to come on and boom, there goes the power. Yes, in Canada we have that, but at least it comes back on. So I want to ask you to walk us through these next few months. And then if you don't mind, just give us a sneak preview. Will Jill Wheatley end up back in Canada, or will she be traveling the world inspiring us from another mountain?
Really good question. And, I come back to blueprints, just ideas, because we know that, if I stay mindful, I'm staying present, but, as much as we have hopes and dreams, that life doesn't always go that way. So just really open-minded with respect to, when you say 5 years down the road. However, right now, so 6 weeks from now, I will be leaving Kathmandu en route to the Gandaki province of Nepal, where I'll be heading towards Manaslu. So for those that have followed along or read, I actually ran around, 200 kilometers around the circumference or the base of Manaslu, and now I'm training to climb up it. So just below 8,200 meters, and that is the world's 8th highest mountain. So currently I'm training for that, and sort of that's my big goal, to summit in. It'll take about just under 2 months, sort of around 7 weeks from the time I start to the time I finish, and then I really just try, as much as I try to stay present, I'm not saying, that I'm going to climb the 7th highest mountain after that and the 6th and maybe Everest, but I'm not going there. I just want to see how I feel on Manaslu, listen to my body, see how it feels and what direction I go. But whether it be 6 months from now or 6 years from now, Carrie, what I, and as much as I don't like labels, one question that has come up a lot recently, not a lot, but, with this interactive social media, right. People asking questions, will I ever be a teacher again? No, I will not go back to a formal classroom, but whether it be now, 6 months, 6 years, what I would like is for others to see me as a teacher by, right. Sharing my life lessons through traumatic brain injury, through adversity. And, Pete mentioned not everyone's going to connect to vision loss or to a traumatic brain injury or an eating disorder. However, every human can connect to adversity. And, the pandemic being one, but like you said, some type of illness, some job loss, relationships, family issues, what have you. Every human is going to go through difficult times. And it's really easy for me, it's not easy to stay vulnerable all the time, but to share. And I think that human connection, people connect to authenticity and to vulnerability. And I'm really firsthand learning that. And so by just doing what I'm doing, I feel that I'm a teacher in this sense. And the mountains sort of are my classroom that others can connect to. And I think, with that, and I use different mountain analogies that I just come naturally to me now. Actually, I just think, mountains don't exist without valleys, and that, mountains can only be, I can only get to Manaslu by traversing the lowlands. And, right now, like yesterday, it's a bit of a rough day. I'm going through that lowland, but then there's going to be tougher days and there's going to be descents. So I just think that, going through and sharing, the steep climbs, the descents are difficult for me, for my vision. But also, the sunny summits, I'm going to share those too, because I think it's important to share the good, the bad, and everything in between, the highs of the mountains and the valleys. And so whatever time it is, Carrie, today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, I just hope that wherever I am, whatever the Mother Nature has in store for us, that when people think of Jill Wheatley, they think of a teacher, and the mountains are her classroom.
That is absolutely amazing. And Robert Wine, kind of like her saying about her site, well, she's not a teacher in a classroom. She's simply a different type of teacher. And every time I listen to you talk, and I know it's inspirational to you, Pete, too, but it's not just inspiration. You are teaching us. I'm learning lots as I follow you. And I really, even at 62, you teach me a lot. One thing you taught me today, I can't see myself climbing that 8,000 meters that you're going to do. So if you don't mind, maybe Pete, you and I start with the valley, and we won't actually go to the hill. Like, let's one foot in front of another. Jill Wheatley, thank you for everybody that's been watching, and for everybody that will watch. We'll have you back on, obviously, as you lead and get ready to go on this 8,000 kilometer trail. I wish I could sneak into
meter up.
That's what I meant. It's a hill to me. But I wish I could jump in the knapsack and I follow along, but I can't. But at least we have the opportunity to listen to you do this and give us, even though I can't be there with you, I actually feel like I'm there, and I feel like I'm loss of air at that 8,000 meters. I want to thank you for sharing this. Please, everybody, go to mountainsofmymind.com. I want to also do a shout out to Jill. She was part of our Johnson & Johnson event. She inspired a lot of people with the video that you gave us. We're really excited about, obviously, helping you on your journey, as we've talked before. This has been Wellness Wednesday, one of our best. Jill Wheatley, thank you. Enjoy the bacon and eggs. You deserve it today, because you got to get ready for that hearty trip up there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share and to connect, and hopefully add some light to others. And just know that I'm here, and as much as I can technically be connected, I am, and happy to help. And there's a new video, Carrie. There's a new video. So the one you showed at the beginning,
Yes.
I've added to that. That one was almost maybe 10 months old, but now there's a newer one. So if anyone goes to Mountains of My Mind, go to the About page, and it just tells a little bit of the story and about my goals, about Manaslu. So
you make sure you send it to me.
I will.
You make sure you send it to me.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Jill.
Thanks so much to you
Have
both.
a great day.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye. Wow, Pete Bombacci. I know Pete had to run. We went a little bit over, but how can you not? Obviously, listening to this inspirational story, you never get tired of it. I never stop wanting to hear more, because, listen, if not through our own endeavors, watching people like Jill get off the mat and do what she does should be inspirational. Listen, we all can get up. I was actually talking to you, Pete. I don't know if you know it, but that's okay. I knew you had to run to the bathroom and comb the hair. I wanted to ask you before we got off here. We did laugh. We didn't cry as much as we usually do, but we certainly, I learned, a couple of things from Jill, and every time we do that. your take home from obviously the authenticity, the genuineness, I know that we've opened up to be vulnerable. She doesn't care. She walks through that door, and she's Jill Wheatley. She has feelings. There's no question. But the fact that she doesn't worry about what other people think, she will now do. And we all have to learn that. We have to learn to do. Let's do, and not just wait for things to come to us. Let's open up those doors now. Be cautious, as she is. She mentioned, think about it, loss of sight. Going up is pretty easy. The tumble down hurts a lot more. So I'm sure you have to be a little bit more tentative. Open the door, get out, and enjoy this world. Be cautious with masks and all the protocols for COVID, but certainly we got to start to live again.
Hey, let's realize that I think all of us, and we're all on a broad spectrum as to where we are and what is achievement for each of us is very different. But if at the end of 16 months, with all the questions we've asked ourselves while we're in lockdown, haven't inspired us to think about what we want to accomplish, where do we want to go, who do we want to help, what do we want to learn, what do we want to, how do we want to change the world? If all of us aren't now saying, hey, that long list of to-dos that I had on my computer, on my notepad, on my whatever, if I'm not going to go and start trying to check a few of those off a little quicker than I might have before, then I think we've missed the point of 16 months. The silver lining, not the point, but the silver lining of the awakening that we may have all had. And I think what Jill does is, and to me, tears were never a part of that show. And I don't think Jill wants anybody to have tears of sadness for Jill. I think what Jill wants to do is inspire the world to make a difference, both on an individual level by actually chasing their own dreams and becoming vulnerable and becoming open, because that's how you build greater relationships and connections with other people, but also in achieving the amazing aspirations that we all have in our lives to say, one day I want to do X, and let's go get those X's now, because we've all seen what 16 months of not being able to go after X has done to us. So, that was just an amazing, inspiring conversation, Carrie, and thank you for bringing Jill on tonight, because I've seen her in some of the other shows. I've listened to her a bit, but I will now follow her because I need those types of inspiration. Even though I feel like we're doing amazing work at the GenWell Project, we all need each other. We all need the inspiration. I need to listen to you. You need to listen to me. I need to listen to Jill. We all need to listen to each other, because it is surrounding ourselves with that positive energy that will actually allow us to accomplish anything that we want to achieve. So,
very, very, very well said. And there were tears. Al Kerr said, leave the singing to the professionals.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I thought I was good.
No.
Hey, listen, obviously 10 years of being involved with Stop Concussions. I was blessed to have and still have very good people that have worked with me along the way. As you know, we wrote a book called Concussed. And one day last week, a young lady that has been bugging me for many months said, listen, we need to get the message out. I did do a couple of concussion podcasts over my years. I kind of got away from it. Then this podcast and video podcast came with Gooch Live. She kept on contacting me and saying, I've read your book several times. It's your 10th year anniversary. Let's do it. And as of next week, we will be starting on Tuesday nights. We're going to be doing Concussed. It will be a half-hour video podcast on Fired Up Network, and it will bring people from around the world, experts on on concussions and what concussions mean outside of it. Concussions is just a sexy word for TBI. It is a brain injury. So we'll have, again, Jill on to talk a little bit about that. And then we'll have doctors from around the world tell us what they're dealing with throughout this pandemic. Of course, with people that are still, listen, they haven't gone away. People are still getting concussed. And by that they're also dealing with post-concussion syndromes. And come along with that are a bunch of mental health. So I'm really excited about that, Pete. I hope you'll watch it. It's called Concussed, and we'll be bringing that out next week. The announcements coming, so I'm pretty excited about that. Pete, before I let you go,
you're continuing to share amazing work and messages, Carrie, and we all need to be thankful for the energy that you've put in since just before the pandemic. Getting, from the hockey show, from Gooch Live with you and Paul Rosen, to everything that you've done over the last 16 months in trying to share positive messages to keep people connected and support them through the ups and downs that everybody's faced. My friend, I just want to say one more time, you are a hero, and you are somebody who's trying to make the world a better place. So, that's just another feather in the cap on Tuesdays that everybody can tune into.
You're beautiful, Pete, but let me just say this. I get as much or more out of being able to be here, sharing my stories with you and with obviously Jill and all the people. And I love the comments. I love the interaction. I'm blessed to be able to do this and do it with you. Listen, thank you, everybody, for joining us. No tears of sadness, but I shed a few tears of joy to see the fellow human shining her light through such an incredible adversity. Jill is certainly inspiring through her life teachings on the mountains. Thank you for that. I love listening to you all, including Paul. Two outstanding gentlemen with values. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us Wellness Wednesday. You will see Jill again. This is only part 7 of part 40. We'll be bringing her on a lot because I get inspired. Pete, you have a great night. Enjoy the lake.
Thanks, buddy.
Love you.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
You will. What a great show. Wellness Wednesday is over. It's been brought to you, of course, good people at the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated. And I want to thank Pete Bombacci from the Gen Wall Project. And, of course, Jill Wheatley. Do not forget to check out her website. She is an amazing story. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Wellness Wednesday. Good night.